Welcome. My name is Mariana Garcia, and I am here with Oscar Gonzalez. And on behalf of the ADA National Network and the Spanish Language Outreach Project, we are introducing a new series of videos that aim to inform the Spanish-speaking community about their rights and the Americans with Disabilities Act. This presentation includes the third topic of our series, which is the introduction to rights. We will review some legal terminology to set a baseline for the audience. Then we will discuss some of the standard laws that protect people with disabilities in the United States. Finally, we will review the roles of community members regarding rights. Slide number 2. Disclaimer, the content of this video does not necessarily represent the views of NIDLR or ACL, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Slide number 3. So what is the objective of this video? So the objectives for this video includes 3 main points. First, we are going to review some legal concepts and legal terminology to provide a better context for understanding the Americans with Disabilities Act and its application in real life. Our second objective is to learn about the laws in the United States that can protect people with disabilities. And third, we will understand the role of community members in regard to these rights and how each community member can contribute to our community. At the end, we will provide also a quick overview of rights of people with disabilities in the community who are undocumented. Slide number 4. So let's start with some of the rights and other legal terminology. So based on our study, for many people in our community, it is hard to understand the differences between legal terms. One of the findings from our study highlighted that understanding the ADA required some previous and basic knowledge about rights and what it means to have rights. Therefore, we want to address those initial barriers by providing a baseline knowledge regarding legal vocabulary. So the idea is that this can help the community to understand the context that all of us as Hispanics and Latinos have the right to fundamental rights. We have the right to protection regardless of our status, nationality, age, and other characteristics, features, or demographics. So as you can see from this slide, what are rights? So rights are what someone is legally entitled to have or to act a certain way. There are many types of rights, including human rights and civil rights. Human rights, on the one hand, mean universal rights just for being a human. These include the rights to life, food, education, work, and other basic principles. Civil rights, on the other hand, cover people within a certain nation or territory, such as the United States. So civil rights protect people from discrimination to those who live in the United States. Slide number 5. So why do people have rights? For much of American history, people with disabilities and other groups were discriminated against. For example, at times, people with disabilities were unable to go to school, were denied work, or even forced to live in institutions away from the rest of society. Disability in no way diminishes a person's right to participate in all aspects of society fully, yet society has excluded people with disabilities because of discrimination. This discrimination has occurred across all important areas of life, including education, housing, employment, transportation, communication, recreation, voting, and access to services. Disability rights are fundamental human rights, not special ones. This means that people with disabilities have the same rights as everyone, including equal opportunity and full social participation. In addition, in our community, it is common to think that we do not have certain rights just because of our legal status. So when we feel about our ethnicity or race and disability, people tend to believe that there is no protection under the law. But we, like any other person in the US, have rights, and we need to learn that those rights, what laws protect us, and how we can advocate for our rights. Slide number 6. So what does history tell us? So the history of discrimination and violation of human rights has a long story for disabled people as well as for Latinos. Many activists started important and historical movements to fight and reclaim the rights of minority groups. In this slide, you can see a timeline of some of the most significant movements for our community in history, especially in the 1960s. For example, the Chicano movement began in 1960 to combat institutional racism and fought for equal labor and political rights. Important figures like Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta co-founded the National Farm Workers Labor Union in 1962 and became important leaders fighting for our civil rights. In 1965, they started the Delano Grape strike that created an important precedent in the history of the United States and Latino community. Later, important activists like Rosalía Muñoz and Rubén Salazar continue this fight about the Vietnam War and other aspects. Their legacy has empowered many leaders to continue fighting for protection of immigrants' rights in the United States. So, in addition, the disability rights movement also marked an important milestone in the United States around 1960. Disability advocates and activists advocated for equal rights and challenged the negative stereotypes and other barriers that the community faced. In 1973, the Rehabilitation Act was passed and people with disabilities were protected by law. In this act, Section 504 integrated protection for people with disabilities in federally funded programs based on physical and mental disabilities. After this law, other important laws were passed. For example, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, now known as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, was passed in 1975 to ensure children with disabilities receive appropriate public education that address their needs. Later, in 1990, another milestone in protection for people with disabilities occurred, the passage of the ADA. Individuals advocated for laws to enhance the rights of people with disabilities in employment, service and programs, transportation, and telecommunication services. The legacy of all these activists has empowered many leaders to continue fighting for the protection of labor and civil rights of Latino in the United States. These movements also continue to make great strides towards the empowerment and self-determination of Latinos with disabilities in the United States. So that's a little bit of history, but it's very important to know it. Now, Oscar is going to move to more legal terminology that can help us understand the ADA.
Okay, thank you, Mariana. So we're going to go into the legal terms so we can, as Mariana mentioned, get a better understanding of the ADA. Another set of terms that could be clear for many community members include the differences between laws, acts, and policies, as they do serve a different purpose under the concept of rights. Therefore, laws are official rules at the federal, state, and local levels that define rights and who is responsible for them. Public policies are different from laws. They are actions by the government that seek the welfare of a population. They are often made in response to an issue or problem that needs attention. And then acts are laws for specific issues that have passed through a governmental body. Acts begin as bills and are voted on in Congress before becoming law. They describe to the public how and why laws should be followed. This is particularly important as the ADA is an act, and we will discuss all the implications. Recall that the ADA was passed in 1990 through the U.S. Congress to protect the rights of persons with disabilities. Slide number 8. In this visualization, we can summarize some of the concepts we just reviewed and locate the ADA and the importance of this act. We will review the ADA in video 4, more in depth, but for this video, we want to put it in the legal context and help the community understand where it stands and the population it protects. So we do have a pyramid here. The very top, we have civil rights, then we have the ADA, and then underneath it, we have state laws, and then underneath that, we have local policies, mandates, city and county regulations. All right, so now we are slide number 9. So, what examples of the areas that are protected by rights? So, rights, including those for people with disabilities, cover all aspects of society to ensure everyone has equal opportunity. For example, people have rights to healthcare, housing, education, employment, community participation, recreation, and of course, transportation. So, these are some examples. Slide number 10. As mentioned, people with disabilities have the same rights as everyone else. Unfortunately, due to the stigma, stereotypes, and discrimination, people may not have equal rights. This is why some laws and regulations exist to protect the rights of people with disabilities. Here is a snapshot of some of the main laws that protect people with disabilities. As we can see, different laws and acts address critical areas of life such as housing, employment, education, and healthcare. Protections include cross-cutting topics like public transportation, access to public spaces and services, and others. We have attached the summary of these regulations and more resources that address each in detail to this video. Because we focus on the ADA, the rest of the videos will stay within that scope. Notice how the Americans with Disability Act is mentioned in all of these areas of life. This is because the ADA is a broad civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities in all areas of public life. Slide number 11. So, how about the rights of people who are undocumented? The Spanish-speaking community makes up a significant portion of people who are undocumented and living in the United States. Many people are unaware that undocumented immigrants in the United States have the same basic rights as anyone else in the United States. This means that they have a right to public education, access to legal courts, and workplace rights like minimum wage and a safe work environment. Many people who are undocumented live with fears of being deported or having problems with immigration services. This often prevents people from learning about their rights and accessing services in the United States. This barrier will be discussed further in the next video. Slide number 12. And so we'll continue reviewing 3 cases for Lucia, Martha, and Lucas. Given that the discussions around discrimination, we will explore 2 of our 3 case studies. Lucas, to learn more about discrimination related to participation in government-funded programs, and Martha, to learn more about discrimination related to accessibility. Moreover, in this video, we will address the topic of rights and undocumented families. Slide number 13. And so Lucas and his soccer team. Lucas has a right to participate in sports activities. However, he is being excluded from the soccer team at the public parks program in his neighborhood. He is being discriminated against based on his disability because he can't play on a team, as he has difficulties socializing and understanding the rules. His legal status does not affect the situation. Under the ADA, Lucas has the right to participate in services and programs offered by local government entities. In this case, the public park district provides the program, and he is being discriminated against based on his difficulty on socializing. And now for the next scenario, Mariana will talk more about Martha.
Slide 14. So thank you, Oscar. So now let's look at Martha at the workplace. So let's remember Martha is a 30-year-old woman who came from El Salvador at the age of 15 and is undocumented. She has type 2 diabetes and anxiety. So Martha had trouble with her office manager as she needed to bring a service dog with her. But the manager insisted that dogs are not allowed to enter the building. As a result, she got fired. So under the ADA, Martha has the right to bring a service dog, even if the office policy does not allow dogs. Employers are required to modify policies to accommodate people with disabilities and protect their right to work. Martha's immigrant status does not deny her the right to have a service animal. In this situation, she is being discriminated against exclusively because of the service dog, which is a support she needs for her daily activities and is protected under the ADA. So, what happens when discrimination happens, right? So let's look at the next slide, and Oscar will explain to us a little bit more where to go and what to do in case of discrimination.
All right, slide 15. So, as Marina mentioned, if you feel that a person in the community, or as you, a person with a disability, is being discriminated against based on a disability, these resources can help you advocate for your rights to participate, access, or be part of any community activity, space, or area. For employment-based discrimination, explore resources under the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC. For education-based discrimination, explore resources under the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. In services from state and local programs and in places of public accommodation, the Department of Justice provides resources. Regardless, if you are ever unsure about any disability-related topic, reach out to your regional ADA National Network Center with questions on resources or issues of discrimination.
Slide 16. So after reviewing all the information about what to do in case of discrimination and the rights, so the question is, what is your role in the community in relation to rights? So after reviewing the topic of this third video, let's think about your role in the community. So again, in this video, we make some recommendations of what can be improved from community members regarding disability. Um, so based on research, evidence, and community members' testimony, small actions can be taken to make a difference in the community. So for example, for people with disabilities, it is important to know that you have rights. We review and understand how these rights protect them in different areas of life, and it's also important to share this information with those who might not have received this information. So if you don't know it, um, you can explore more of the information we provide, but also once you have it, you can share it with other members of your community. For employers, it is important to know what laws and regulation exist in the workplace for people with disabilities. It is also important to stay updated with regulations and understand that this exists to promote equality at the workplace. It is also important to promote an inclusive environment for people with disabilities by being open to listening to people's needs and addressing them under the law. Finally, there are responsibilities for employers in terms of disability access. Make sure you know what these regulations are and how the workplace is an accessible place for everyone. For family members, so family members have the responsibility to educate themselves and educate their children with disabilities about the rights and the laws that will protect them. Family is a very important part of our culture, and educating families is a priority for the ADA National Network, as we found limited education about rights and the ADA for this specific group. Therefore, we encourage and invite family members to develop this basic knowledge and understand some of these laws that will protect your children now and in the future. Also, we want families to know that with the law, there are some limitations and boundaries that need to be respected. And this is why it's important to educate children so in the future they can advocate for themselves when they have to do it. For service providers and professionals, remember, you carry a big responsibility under the law as you provide services to people with disabilities on a daily basis. Starting from a framework of justice at the ADA National Network, we want to invite people to continue working on their awareness about disabilities, to be prepared to interact and support this community, and to offer equity in their service. To do that, we recommend that service providers and professionals review the laws and regulations that protect people with disabilities in their professions and areas of expertise. And this might include offering supportive services such as physical access to spaces, provision of auxiliary aids, modification of policies, reasonable accommodations, and many others. In terms of awareness, we recommend you watch video number 1 just to get a sense of that interaction with people with disabilities. Finally, the ADA National Network encourages community members to promote disability positively and move away from stereotypes. Combating these stereotypes is a good first step to understand the rights, laws, and regulation of the community with disabilities. Also, community members, remember, you must be informed and updated about the laws so they can provide accurate and reliable information to members of the community. And remember what we mentioned in video number 1. Sometimes people go to you because they trust you more. So make sure you are updated, you know all this information so you can provide it to them. Finally, community members are also encouraged to be aware of which entity enforces the laws and regulations and to know how to contact them. So overall, we invite and encourage all community members in the audience that is here today to reflect on their knowledge about rights and responsibilities, what has been done at the local area of expertise, and what can be improved to provide an equal opportunity to people with disabilities across different areas of life. Slide 17. So what are some key takeaways from today's video? So these are the main points to consider for our community. Number 1, there are several laws to protect people with disabilities from discrimination. Number 2, many laws have overlapping purposes with the ADA, but they are different. Number 3, civil rights include people who are undocumented in the community. And number 4, it's important to know your role in protecting the rights of people with disabilities. So with this, we close this video. I'm going to pass it to Oscar so he will give us some final resources and recommendations for this video.
All right, slide number 18. All right, as we end this video, we ask that you please take a brief moment to provide feedback on its content. Your comments will assist us in improving the video content and make it more useful for community members. Please scan this QR code or visit the following link. Number 19, and if you would like to learn more about the ADA National Network, including the Spanish Language Outreach Project, please visit the following websites. We do have more references and number 20. We do have more references and resources available if you would like to learn more. Number 21. And that concludes our video. The next video in this series will cover the Americans with Disability Act.